teaching session on people who are looking forward to switching over from manual SICS to phacoemulsification. So there are a lot of discussions and deliberations going on all around during this COVID time regarding all the latest developments in phacoemulsification. But then there is hardly much being talked about the needs of a beginner. So we thought this could be a unique session where we would have some of the best masters of phacoemulsification come in and do a teaching session on conversion from manual SICS to phacoemulsification. Myself, Dr. Jacob Matthew. I am from Kochi, Kerala, Ernakulam, and the other two speakers are from Bangalore, Dr. Mohan and Dr. Manas Ghosh from Kolkata. All three of us were there in Aravind, Madurai, the mecca of cataract surgery, towards the end of the 1990s. And both Dr. Mohan and Dr. Manas were head of the department of cataract surgery towards the end of the 1990s and early 2000. And, the same was carried over by me to the year 2003. So having trained quite a few of the students there and as well as WHO trainees who had come in, and even the people who used to come in from US, Wilma Eye Institute and such places, these people are full of experience to talk about both these techniques, be it manual SICS or phacoemulsification. And in fact, I would like to point out that both of them were my gurus. They taught me actually everything from extracapsular extraction to Dr. Manas taught me the first few steps of manual SICS, and Dr. Mohan was always there to guide me. And all three are totally into phacoemulsification. So but then this teaching is a great opportunity, and hope a lot of the people who are attending this session will be helped. Dr. Mohan is right now the medical director of Vasanai Care Hospital, Koramangala, the branch Koramangala in Bangalore. He has been there for more than 10 years. And Dr. Manas Ghosh is the chief trainer in phacoemulsification at Disha. He's a senior consultant there. Probably he has been there for almost 20 years, ever since he left Aravind, Madurai. So going on to the topic, I hope most of the people have joined, and so we'll start with the deliberations. And first, we'll be talking about PHACO dynamics, and let's go on to the session. Are my slides visible? Can you see my slides?
It is visible.
Yeah, okay. So what is PHACO dynamics? It's like switching over from driving a two-wheeler to four-wheeler, probably using more of your limbs, taking more help from your eyes and ears, as well as you have to think more about what you're doing. So we need to know the machine, the mechanism behind it, and the technique and the technology that lies in a phaco machine before you actually go on to doing a smooth phacoemulsification or a surgery. So Charles Kellman started all this idea back in 1962, but still it took almost 2-3 decades for the concept to materialize, and probably late 80s and early 90s, phacoemulsification came into being. And probably India would have got this technology probably in the middle of 1990s. A lot of our pioneers in phacoemulsification in India, including one of our gurus, Dr. Sundaramurthy in Lotus, Coimbatore. I think he started his phacoemulsification and bought his machine in 1994. And probably that's the earliest, most of the surgeons could procure a machine. And the machines of those years, or the beginning, were not as advanced, or they didn't have all the technology in them as what it is now. And probably now it's the fourth generation of machine that are existing now, and whole lot of things have changed. Everything, the how the fluidics and power is controlled, the phaco power modulation, everything is done highly computerized. Everything has got a chip to work behind it, from the pedal to the handpiece to just about say anything. The bottle height, the pole, is everything is automated, and it's very comfortable to do a safe phacoemulsification at this point of time. Probably the last 1 decade, things have really changed, and we are really enjoying doing the procedure. So understanding the machine and trying to understand the technique properly will give you a highly effective and efficient removal of the cataract. So going on to the parts of the phaco machine, there are three major things that we see as the machine. Like your dashboard of the car, you have got the console where everything from the speed of the car, the power, and the vacuum, or the torque, or whatever you call it, and then the flow rate. How much of turbulence you are going to create by the water that is fed in by the bottle that is kept on a pole, a little above the head end of the patient, something like 60 to 100 centimeters above the patient level of the patient head, and that provides the passive inflow of fluid. Now what we use is a balanced salt solution. The handpiece is what has the piezoelectric crystals numbering from 4 to 6. Some of the machines have got up to 6 crystals in it, and you can see there down below. The property of a ceramic crystal to expand or contract provides the ultrasound energy, which finally, agitates the titanium tip at the tip of the the handpiece, the phaco handpiece, and you have also got the irrigation aspiration handpiece, which you use after the removal of the nucleus. And the phaco handpiece has got three, ports at the back. One is where the current or the machine passes on its energy into it to convert the electrical energy into ultrasound mechanical energy. One port takes out the water, it aspirates the water, and the other one, causes the irrigation to come in. So the irrigation goes in, and the irrigation fluid comes out from the sleeve through two side ports, and through the side of the sleeve around the phaco tip, which is a titanium tip. And the foot pedal works. You have the foot pedal also, which provides the three different steps, where the first step is irrigation, and then the irrigation aspiration, and finally the phaco power. Three excursions are there, and you feel everything. Actually, as I said, in driving, you need to use all your your eye, the ear, the hand, and the foot. So with the visually, you're trying to see how deep the nucleus is, what plane the fragments are, and where it should be removed safely. It should not come to near the cornea, the endothelium, nor should it cause any damage to the posterior capsule. And also the auditory feedback is very important. You need to keep your ears open so that you hear some auditory feedback from the machine. The foot pedal also creates a few clicks so that you know into phacoemulsification. and even the handpiece, the feel of the handpiece in your hand, it's a little, awe producing, so that initially when you take the handpiece in your hand, you really don't know what to do, how do you manage it and things like that. So these are all the initial things that any beginner will go through. And also the how you hold the handpiece, it's very important, where you direct the tip and the proper safe zones that you have to maintain while doing surgery. And the foot pedal, the position, and how you move your foot pedal in a pitch motion. And some of the foot pedals, they have the air motion, or the the sidewards motion also, which can be used to control either the aspiration or the shape of power. No, so phaco is understanding the various functions of the machine and also the interrelationship between all these. So regarding the power, I already mentioned that it's created by the piezoelectric crystals, and the tip of the titanium probe actually moves at around 30 to 60 hertz per second. Some machines, give oscillation of 30 hertz per second, whereas it's almost like 30,000 times per second. And some give higher oscillations. And all this causes heat production at the tip of the probe, and the sleeve is basically there to cool the tip of the phaco probe. And power is dependent on the stroke length. So how much the tip of the probe is, moving forward and backward, that is gives the final power of the machine. It can be made 100%, usually being kept around 40 to 50 or 60% at the most, because heat generation is caused there. And how it works is like a jackhammer, like one of the drills that you use to break up the the pavement or the roads and all that. So it causes, as the tip retracts, there is a negative pressure created there. Water rushes in, and it's moving at a very fast pace. So an implosion occurs, and as the tip moves forwards, it causes a bombardment. It's like a hit there, and that causes acoustic wave also. So basically, it works on the principle called microcavitation, where the nucleus at the tip of the probe gets broken down because of this agitation, and it gets pulverized and gets broken down into small pieces. And till the third generation, we used to have longitudinal phaco, where the tip will be moving to and fro in the longitudinal axis. And you can see that there are different bevels that are provided, like from 0 to 60-degree tips are there. As it becomes more angulated, it's more sharp, it cuts more. Whereas if it's a 15 or 0-degree tip, the hold is a lot better. So when you're doing chop, you prefer a flatter tip. And when you're doing a trench, or you're doing a harder cataract, you choose a more angulated tip. Later on in the fourth generation, actually, the tip started, being provided as a torsional. The horizontal movement also started coming in. Torsional phaco is sort of an angulated movement, where almost like 2 degrees it moves from one side to the other. And so this is supposed to cause less heat generation. As you can see, the thermal scan down there. The torsional phaco causes a little bit less heat generation and wound burn compared to the traditional phaco. But I personally feel that the longitudinal phaco is a lot more efficient, and it gives excellent cutting. And your surgery is a lot more faster. Torsional phaco takes a little bit more of time, though it causes less heat generation. And sleeves, as I mentioned, actually covers, it's an accessory that covers the tip of the phaco probe to sort of insulate the wound. Otherwise, the wound gets cooked and burned. And so it's like a pathway for the fluid to pass over the tip and cool it. And it has got two side ports through which the irrigation fluid comes out. and the tip has a hollow inside, so the fluid aspiration occurs through the central hollow part of the tube. This fluid insulation is basically to safeguard the wound. The longer that you take to do phacoemulsification, the wound may undergo damage. So anything about 10 minutes, can contribute to a wound burn. So it's always best to, do phaco for about a minute or two, and then if you think your cataract is a little too hard, or you're taking too long, then come out, put in visco, and then give it some time before you again start continuing with your phaco. So the power, as I mentioned, could be set from 0 to 100. Usually we go for something like a 40%, or when a harder cataract comes, we raise it to 50 or 60 at the most. The present generation machines give excellent cutting, so there you need much less power. And there are two kinds of settings for power that can be put. Normally we go for the linear mode, where the power keeps increasing as you press the pedal, and the final power that you have set on the panel will come at the extreme end of the pedal. Whereas a panel mode, in the third position of the foot pedal, you get the full power straight away. So as soon as you go into the third position, if you have kept a 40% power, you get it delivered fully, and that helps speed up your surgery. You are very sure where your power is getting delivered and how fast you're going to do it. So power is delivered in normally a continuous mode. You can also keep it in a pulse mode, where have a sort of gap in between the power delivery, and you can even have it as a hyper pulse, where hundreds or thousands of pulses are delivered altogether with a gap in between. And duty cycles here, actually you have packs of power with intervals of on and off. So again, you are trying to reduce the final power that is getting delivered, but then you are trying to make it as efficient as possible. Also, the burst mode is there, where longer intervals come in between the delivery of the maximum power as you depress the pedal. So basically, here a fluid balance is the key to a successful phaco surgery. So it's a closed anterior chamber, and for that you need to have a balance of the water that comes in and the water that goes out. So it's not only the fluid that gets aspirated; some fluid gets, it leaks out through the side ports that you make. Also, some fluid might come out through the sleeve outside the tip of the phaco probe also. So that helps in cooling the wound. So this has to be balancing with the fluid that comes in. Usually the infusion is passive inflow. As I mentioned, with the bottle light kept above the head of the patient and head end of the patient. And nowadays the fourth generation machines come with the active infusion also, where a pump actually pushes in the fluid, and that helps a little more definite maintenance of anterior chamber with the least of surge and things like that. All these terminologies we'll be mentioning as the talk goes on. Try to understand as much as possible. And then all this is to sort of keep the AC stable, protect your cornea. Initially, phacoemulsification was thought as a procedure which could damage your cornea, and also in the long run can cause problems. But then now it's a very safe technology, and your corneas are very safe because you're working far away from the cornea, almost like 2.5 millimeters away from the cornea at the pupillary plane. You should not damage the iris, as well as the posterior capsule should be always pushed back. So whenever you have a surge, the PC tends to come up and hit the tip of the probe, and you might get a rent. So the present generation machines make sure the anterior chamber is maintained so beautifully that you don't really need to worry about all these issues, because the fluidics is so good, and quite a few machines are there on the market at the top end, and all of them are very good and highly efficient. And also the aspiration is actually controlled by two kinds peristaltic pump where, tubing goes around a cassette where the wheels milk the fluid in the tube, and that causes a negative pressure which is transferred to the tip of the probe, and that's how the vacuum develops. Whereas the Venturi pump is working on the Bernoulli's principle, where a high pressure gas is passed through a tube, and the negative pressure that is created thus is directly passed on to the tip of the phaco probe. So there is a higher kind of vacuum that is directly transmitted to the phaco handpiece, and the flow rate is sort of fixed in Venturi pump. So these are the points that I think I have already mentioned. So I will go to the next slide. So this is the Bernoulli's principle that you are seeing first on the left-hand side. It's the Venturi provides better followability. It happens a lot more faster. The whole thing happens a lot more. The flow rate is, it's very high, and it comes very fast. And your procedure as such is done in a more efficient way, and it's specifically independent of the tip occlusion, whereas in a peristaltic pump you need to occlude the tip, and then only the vacuum starts building up. So you can see the peristaltic pump, how it works on the right hand side of the slide. The figure shows that. So there's something called the rise time. That is the time required to reach the maximum vacuum that you have set. So probably the vacuum can be set anything from 150 millimeters mercury to up to 600 millimeters mercury in the present day machines, and it's the time where you reach that set vacuum, that is a rise time. So it's, as you can see in the graph on the right hand side, that Venturi pumps provide quick rise time, whereas the peristaltic pumps it happens a lot more slower. So it's compared to sort of a racing car. The Venturi pump is considered like a racing car, where you, as soon as you accelerate, the time that it takes to reach your 0 to 100 is something like 3 or 4 seconds. Whereas a load laden truck, picking up speed is what peristaltic pump is like. That is what we used to hear and feel 20 years back. But then the present day peristaltic pumps are a lot more efficient, and they are as good as the Venturi pumps. So these are some of the terms that you should be knowing. I've mentioned about surge. Surge is what happens to the anterior chamber. There's a sudden collapse. There's a negative pressure as the occlusion breaks, and the whole of the vacuum at that particular point of time acts at the tip of the probe, and then the fluid that is there in the anterior chamber suddenly gets sucked out, and the AC tends to collapse. That is called surge, and that is where you're scared of getting a PC rent. So this is something that is taken care of with the I mentioned the computer chips that are there, in the handpiece as well as in the pedal, and for the console. All the senses where the occlusion break occurs, and immediately there is something called the venting that takes place, where it sort of equilibrates the vacuum levels with either air or fluid in the aspiration line, causing it to balance out at the quickest and causing as least surge as a possibility. Followability is something that is generated with the help of the turbulence that is created by the fluidics, the fluid that is coming in, so that the nuclear fragments come faster to the tip. That is called followability. So higher flow rate means you'll have a better followability. The surgery will be a little more faster. That otherwise the fragments might remain there. It may not come directly onto the tip, and that is about followability. Chatters, because the tip is moving at such a fast agitation speed, like 30,000, 40,000 hertz in a second, the fragments tend to get pushed around or kicked around, and this chatter causes the fragments to get thrown off from the tip. So the hold is affected because of the chatter as well. So actually the pulse and the breaks in between actually helps the followability to be better and the hold to, become better. So that is the reason why you go for a pulse mode or all this hyper pulse and things like that, so that you can reduce the chatter and improve your followability and also the hold. Occludability, as I mentioned, is better with the flatter tips, and whereas a sharper tip, you have to sort of bury your tip a lot more before you start getting your hold, because the occlusion happens a lot more later compared to a 0 or 15-degree tip. So if it's a hard cataract, you have to go for a 45-degree tip, whereas if you're doing a direct chop, you can go for your flatter tip. So balance would be something like a 30-degree tip will be ideal initially. If it's a harder cataract, you can go for a 45-degree tip. So hold is, as I mentioned, how well the fragment comes in and you're occluding, and then the vacuum helps you to hold the nucleus so that you can emulsify it and remove it from as you do the surgery. Thus, talking about phaco-dynamics, I hope I've covered most of the points here. And we need to know about all these above parameters and terminologies that are prevalent. You need to know all these before you could, adapt yourself to the new technology. And it doesn't come very fast. As we do training, we allow the candidates to go through a wet lab and phaco, wet lab is actually, we are going to talk about it, how it's being done. Dr. Manas will be talking about that. And still initially, it's a lot more other things hang over our heads that, we are so scared about each step that we do. Everything from the tunnel creation to, the rexes and, the removal of the nucleus is a big issue or a problem that hangs over our head, that we tend to understand phaco-dynamics a lot more later. So keep trying to understand what all these terminologies are, so that you'll be able to do your procedure a lot more easily. So this is my own words. The fluidics which create the controlled turbulence in the anterior chamber, resulting in a balance of the ingress and egress of fluid through the phaco tubing and the leakage taken into account through the side ports and the main tunnel, along with the swirls of fluid current created by the irrigation ports of the silicon sleeve, drives the fragments of the nucleus that are divided, chopped, and fed into the phaco tip. All the while, one tries to stay in the safe zone, that is below the pupillary plane and within the capsule bag, so that your endothelium is protected as much as possible. And the present OVDs actually help a lot for, giving adequate protection. Even a decompensated cornea with a count of less than 1,000 cells can be operated upon very safely using this new procedure on one of the higher end machines with the use of the higher end OVDs. So the next topic is again, being handled by me. Actually, how do you practice a few steps of phacoemulsification in your SICS itself? So as you're doing your SICS, we can always, think of how you're going to step into the next technology of phacoemulsification. So probably start planning like 5-6 months ahead, and then you can try to improve your tunnel construction. You can try to always get a rexus. Try to get 100% rexus in your SICS. There are a lot of people who tend to do can opener technique, or you tend to lose your rexus often, that you give up on doing a rexus on a regular basis. Never do that. Try to stick on to continuing with your rexus all the time, and try to get it 100% right. And doing a rexus in SICS is a lot more difficult than doing it in phaco, because in SICS you need to make a larger rexus. You need to make a 6 millimeter rexus or slightly less than that. Whereas in phacoemulsification, you can afford to make a slightly smaller rexus. So a smaller rexus means you flatten the anterior capsule using your OVDs, and then once it's flat, you can use the right cutting and then you can proceed with your rexes in a much better manner. And also your the tunnel construction is very, very important in phacoemulsification. It should not be neither big nor small, and you are getting a predetermined keratome or a side port. In a keratome, normally you use a 3 millimeter keratome, or a 2.8 millimeter for a standard wound, and a 1.8 or a 2.2 millimeter keratome for your MICS. So that's what I'm mentioning here. So for a wound construction, you should have the exact size. So you should know what is your probe tip size, and along with the sleeve, what is the size of the tip, and then it should go through a tunnel which should not cause any compression or stricture of the sleeve, because a proper fluid ingress is very important to keep the tip cooled. So that is very important, and you should not extend the wound also. You just go in, come out. You're not extending the wound as in SICS. And rexes, I have already told, the size should be slightly less than 6, so something like a 5.5 millimeter, rexes is enough in phacoemulsification, so that a 0.5 millimeter overlap is there over your optic, the lens optic, so that it sort of seals the edge of the IOL beautifully, and it also helps in preventing a posterior capsular opacification. Hydro procedures can be tried out in your SICS, manual SICS. You do hydro procedure in a big way, but then you are not very particular that you need to do it in that particular way that you need to do in a phacoemulsification. So cortical cleaving hydrodissection is what is required in phacoemulsification, and you don't want the nucleus to pop out of the back. So you need to sort of tap the center of the nucleus, do a gentle hydrodissection, because your rexus is also a little more smaller than what you have for your SICS. So you should not have a burst of your bag, and you should not lose your nucleus. That is very important. And also the tunnel and side ports are a lot more smaller. You don't have any time to rescue your dropping nucleus. So that is a major thing. You need to do your hydro procedure the proper way, at the same time not pushing in too much of saline or causing the nucleus to pop out of the bag. And you can also try rotating the nucleus in the bag, so that you're making sure that it's right for starting your phacoemulsification. Unless the nucleus is rotating, often it becomes a little difficult. You have to take out the probe, then again do your hydrodissection, so that the nucleus becomes loose, and then you need to rotate it again in between your trenching and things like that. So try to get your hydrodissection proper before you start your phacoemulsification. And also use of the IA handpiece. Normally we are all used to the Simcoe, while you're doing your manual SICS. So here actually it comes as a coaxial IA or a bimanual IA. A bimanual IA gives you better control, because AC maintenance is a lot better. And both these can be tried, and whatever suits you, you can go for that. And also the subincisional cortex is what often becomes difficult to remove. A Simcoe cannula can be always passed through your side port to reach there, but a coaxial IA cannula, IA cannula cannot, turn in there. So there are J-shaped or L-shaped tips for your IA, which can be used to remove the subincisional cortex. So these are actually videos given to me by another ex-Aravind surgeon, Dr. Minu Mathan. My acknowledgement to him for providing me excellent videos showing how a wound can be constructed. I always suggest a scleral wound rather than a corneal wound, because a corneal wound can cause a lot more damage in a long drawn phaco procedure initially. So on the left hand side, you can see how an SICS wound is sort of tried for your phaco. So the phaco entry is just, you go in with your keratome, that's a 3.2 millimeter keratome, you stop there. And on the right hand side, you can see how the pocket of sclera is being created so beautifully by using the crescent knife. And this sort of a tunnel can be converted at any point of time while you're doing your phacoemulsification, if you feel that you can't proceed and you want to convert to your manual SICS. And always use the trypan blue dye while you're doing your XS. So here you can see already he has sort of stained it with the trypan blue dye. This is a mature cataract. Any kind of cataract you can do phacoemulsification. That is a misconcept that harder cataracts can't be done. Mature cataracts, that's all in the mind. Once you are very confident about phacoemulsification, just about anything, even subluxated cataracts and half the nucleus hanging down, it can be done with phacoemulsification. It's a beautiful procedure. So this is one of my capsular XS techniques that I myself innovated. It's called a spiraling technique, where a band of the capsule as its tone is created, and as you enlarge the opening, you make a ribbon of that. So it's called the spiraling technique. Whereas in a hypermature cataract, normally when you do it initially, you have to make a smaller opening in the center, and then you do something called the double rhexis. This is just to show you how beautifully you can do a rhexis with the help of a trypan blue dye. So this is the cortical cleaving hydrodissection. You can see how the tip of the irrigation, the cannula sort of goes underneath the anterior capsular margin, the rhexis margin, and sort of lifts it up, and so that and you proceed a little more further towards the equator before you push in the saline, and you can see the saline going all around and trying to escape through the other side. So this is very important. If you go into the cortical matter or the epinucleus and try to inject the saline, often the nucleus gets stuck there, and then you're finding it difficult to rotate it. So actually you can see the fluid wave going in. Now you could see the fluid wave going in. The nucleus is about to pop out, and the tap in the center actually helped prevent it. And you go to the other side, again do hydrodissection there. And on the right hand side, this video actually shows a hydrodelineation. That is, the surgeon goes into the epinucleus or the cortex and then injects saline there, and you can see the golden ring. Golden ring sign is actually where when you do a hydrodelineation, you get that. That is often done when you have a posterior polar cataract and you don't want to do a hydrodissection, but then you want to sort of delineate the nucleus and then proceed with your phaco. Actually, it causes the cortex to get stuck there, or the epinucleus to stuck there. It will stick onto the capsule. It will get and it will be a little difficult for you to do the irrigation aspiration. So Dr. Bernoulli will be actually talking about trenching. What I would suggest is always you should know the size of the tip. It's around 1 millimeter in size, and the center, as you can see, the nucleus is around 3.84 millimeters in thickness, and as you come to the periphery, it's around 2 millimeters. So as you do your phaco, your trenching, your tip has to actually get angulated. You can see the figure where the tip is being held flat, and then it's angulated. That angulation is very important. You have to have an attacking angle where you go deeper at the center, and as you come to the periphery, it goes up. So it's like a boat-like movement. You have to go deeper in the center and come up, and then rotate the nucleus and try to do the other end of the trench. And the tips have to be looked into. Trenching is usually done with a lower vacuum and lower flow rate, but with a higher power. So always start with the divide and conquer if you want to really get the feel of each of those, phaco nucleus dividing techniques. And then the rotation of the nucleus is very important. If you try to hold on to the center of the nucleus and rotate it, it never happens. So always go through the side port. Use your iris repositor or the, go right to the end of the trench and rotate it as shown on the right side, and you'll be able to easily rotate it provided your hydrodissection has also been done in a proper way. Cracking of the nucleus also, never try to crack it keeping your tip at the upper end of the nucleus, the trench. Always go to the deeper end of the trench and try to divide the nucleus. That will help you divide the nucleus in your divide and conquer much more easily. These are all problems that we all have faced. So that is exactly the fragments, always try to hold on to the hard central part of the nucleus. Never go too superficial, nor go too deep. When you go deep, you are very near the posterior capsule, you might get a rent as the tip is very sharp. As the phaco proceeds, you might go through the nucleus and touch the posterior capsule, causing a rent. So that is very important, where you hold the fragment as you have finished your dividing, and then you need to conquer. When you're removing the nuclear fragments, you need to hold on to the harder part of the nucleus. So next topic is actually by Dr. Manas. Actually, in Disha, he's conducting the training in PHACO. He's the chief of PHACO emulsification training, and they do a wet lab training practice there. So he'll mention how that is done, and how and most of our trainees actually go through the first phases of wet lab training, so that they get to try all these on goat's eye, or some artificial way of doing your procedure before you actually start doing it on a human eye. So over to Dr. Manas. Sir, can you please take over?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Jacob, for the nice introduction. And Aravind. So, as Dr. Jacob mentioned, that doing some steps of PHACO during your routine SICS, that gives you a lot of confidence, because this is a very little bit longer learning curve. So, if you do some steps of PHACO, which is very much mandatory, like doing a Rexis, that can be small, that can be big. That's not a problem. If it is small, so you can cut some places and make it a can opener. You can try rotation. Then you can give some sculpting also. So whenever you feel not comfortable, you can convert at any time. You release Rexis at few places, then pull up the nucleus in the antechamber and easily convert. That also give you some feeling of PHACO before going to the full project PHACO emulsification, where that means where you have committed the patient for PHACO emulsification. So that is the final stage. And also the wet lab practice on the PHACO is also is a very essential tool to practice PHACO. This also will also minimize the complications in your learning curve. I think that is very important. Because we know that in the learning phase we face a lot of complications. So once you face the complications, your confidence gets shattered. So, so to minimize complication, doing some steps in your SICS and practicing wet lab, that gives you good confidence. In our hospital, we give lots of wet lab practice of our PHACO training, and we have seen that these lesser the time of the PHACO learning. So, my video is visible now?
Yes, sir. It's very clear.
Yeah. So, so this is the goat's eye. So we prefer the goat's eye, but in outer western the pig eye, but we don't get the pig eye. But goat's eye is also good. So here we are fixing the goat's eye with 4 clips in a platform, so that the globe doesn't move. So once the globe is fixed properly with 4 clips, now after cutting the conjunctiva, like the SICS what you are doing, you do the same thing only. You do a scleral tunnel. I know it will be a little bit difficult because it's a softer globe, so you can inject some saline to the sclera to tighten the globe, and also you can do a side port in the cornea and can put some viscoelastic so that the get more harder. So once you finish this scalar tunnel, make a small clear corner tunnel. So you have to remember the goat size is very large. So do a scalar tunnel and a corner tunnel in the center. Now you do a rexis. Like whatever we do a little bit smaller rexis, 4 to 4.5, because you have to insert the human nucleus that you have extracted during your SICS cases into it. So make it smaller so that the it holds the human nucleus properly. So it's a nice 4 to 4.5 millimeter capsular axis. Now make another side port. Now we are doing little bit trenching. So that you remove some little bit of lens matter and to create a space so that it holds the human nucleus, intact whole nucleus, what you have extracted in your SICS cases. So we are removing some bit of cortex and the nucleus little bit to make it some spaces. Once we remove that thing, we are enlarging the scleral tunnel. Enlarge the scleral tunnel around 5 to 5.5 millimeter. So now enlarge. Now this human nucleus that you have extracted in SICS cases, you insert, and now this is little bit tricky, and nucleus you just build inside the capsular axis. See it going so nicely, and whole nucleus is gone into the back. Now the smaller axis is holding the nucleus. It's like a now human nucleus because we have to learn the nuclear management. Now once the nucleus is gone inside, you take your phaco probe, and whatever you want to do, you can do it. Like this case, we are doing trenching, so you can practice trenching. This will give you the same feeling like whatever you get feeling in human nucleus. So we are doing trenching, and I will request that to take a little bit harder nucleus at the beginning so that you get good feeling, not the softer nucleus, like grade 4 onwards nucleus. So that will give you good feeling of trenching and chopping and other things. You can practice anything, chopping, cracking, trenching, and gives a very good feeling of human nucleus. So we are trenching. It's like the same whatever you practice. So once the trenching completed, put some viscoelastic and do cracking. This also gives you, like here you are doing rotation. So you are practicing your left hand. So that is more important because you have to make your left hand very dominant. That is very crucial in PHACO. Because SICS only right hand is sufficient, but here the left hand is very important. So doing bimanual rotation will also give you more practice to the left hand. So you are practicing rotation, then you are cracking both halves. So it's fully cracked. It's like same like a human nucleus, whatever the human PHACO. Once that is completed, again you introduce a PHACO probe. Now you can practice chop, like stop and chop. So hold it and chop it. So here you don't have fear that you may damage capsule, you may damage posterior capsule, you may damage cornea. Okay, you damage like cornea gets blurred, so you can take another both side and practice it, no problem. So how nicely you're practicing the chop in this case. So it gives you excellent chops. So once you chop, you can practice emulsification of the nucleus. So this fragment is getting emulsified. So all steps of PHACO you can practice these with lab, and this is an excellent tool for jumping towards the PHACO. So once that one fragment is removed, taking another fragment, and you can practice sub chop also. See, we are doing left hand also. We are doing sub chop and making it smaller. So all steps of PHACO you can practice it here, and you see the chamber stability. It's so nicely good chamber is there. So we are practicing now the fragment removal. Now 2 fragments removed. Now we are practicing the rotation, bimanual rotation, because this is very important. And we have seen the lot of training face this problem, the bimanual rotation, because the left hand is not that dominant. So practicing bimanual rotation in your SICS cases in this wet lab gives you the left hand more dominant. Same again, we have chopped the another fragment and removing the fragments. Once that removed, we are making another fragment and practicing sub chops, and at the same time emulsifying the fragments. And the whole nucleus will remove. So if you can't do it in the goat's eye, we can definitely do it in the human eye. Thank you.
Sir, actually, the next topic is also yours. Handling of the nucleus snare technique.
Yeah. So I will go to the next topic.
So one question I have to ask you is, what machine do you use for your wet lab, sir?
Same, Infinity only.
Same
because
Infinity, okay.
this is the company-sponsored program. So they kept one Infinity in the wet lab. But that machine should not, we should not take it in the work, because we have to sterilize it and then you have to take it. So you need a separate machine.
Yeah. That is, I think, important. Having a feel of the machine, it should be the same machine what you're actually, going to use later also. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think this is also a nice technique of snare technique.
I know.
So, okay. So this is an excellent technique of snare technique, and at DISA we are promoting this technique from the very beginning. It's an excellent technique of dividing the nucleus, especially in harder cataracts. So now making the wire loop. So this is a 24 gauge needle. First we take this and beta wire, number 1 beta wire. Now we are blunting the 24 gauge needle tip. Now we are making 2 perforations of 24 gauge needle. Now we are threading the wire into the 2 eyelets. Now the loop has formed, and from the other side, the two free ends, we are introducing another 24 gauge needle, and we are making 2 constrictions so that it holds the loop. Now the loop is ready. Now the nucleus has collapsed into the anterior chamber, and we are introducing the snare and making it in the center, and by constricting the loop, you are getting the nucleus. It's so easy. So this technique we are doing since I think 2003 or 4. See, this my loop is the same version only. Same version my loop. Same only we are doing above the iris. They are doing in the bag only. We're using the steel wire. They are using the nitinol. So principally same only.
Really nice. Yeah.
So this is another case. So nucleus prolapse. We are wire loop, engaging the nucleus and in the center, and then constrictor loop. Yeah. So that gives nice 2 equal fragments. And we are using the specialized forceps. This is serrated forceps. That like a MacPherson, same thing only, the inside is serrated, and that gives you the good grip so that you take out the nucleus. You can use also irrigating vectors also. That we will see later on. You can use the irrigating vectors to remove the fragments also. This is another case. So you can see this grade of the nucleus, all are 4, 5.
Yeah.
So, and you know that if you do irrigating vectors, sometimes you can damage the endothelium. But this is very endothelium friendly. Very endothelium friendly. You can cut any grade of cataract, grade 6, no problem. Any grade of cataract you can cut it, and it's very by seeing you may see that you are damaging the endothelium, but it's not that. But definitely coating of the endothelium is required. So now we are using the irrigating vectors to remove the nucleus. You can use the irrigating vector also. You did not to use the irrigation. Just take the vectors without irrigation and just take it out. And if you use irrigation also, mild, but if you inject too much, that iris can come out. So here we are planning to make it 3. You can make 3 also, no problem. So here you are making 3 pieces. First 1 piece, then another 2 pieces. Now nice 3 pieces. So we are taking out 3 pieces. So 1 by 1. So by making 3 pieces, you can make it incision much smaller. Yeah. So here we are saying you are doing the 4 millimeter incision.
Okay.
We are making a little bit smaller incision. We will put foldable IOL in this case.
Okay.
So you put foldable IOL also.
Yeah.
So this is a smaller tunnel compared to the previous one. Type staining. Enlarging tunnel. Doing the rexis. Little bit larger rexis required. So making 5.5 to 6 millimeter rexis. Then
maximum 50 something
and collapsing the nucleus. And whole nucleus is doing same thing like other SICS you are doing. I'm putting viscoelastic above and below. Yeah. So you can introduce either left side, right side, no problem. This case we are introducing on the right side. You can below also you can introduce, from up also you can introduce. So after making 2, we are introducing the snare again and making another division. So now 3 pieces. So we can take it out 1 by 1. So you are using the specialized forceps. Here the irrigating vector is because irrigating vector's diameter is little more. 5.4. Then cortical aspiration. And putting foldable IOL. And that gives you nice astigmatism control and good post. See, the 4 millimeter. So another improvisation we have done. The last whatever thing we have shown that that is stainless steel wire. Here using the proline 90 proline. They are making the snare with a 90 proline also. So this proline also we can use it. So we call it proline snare. This proline snare advantage is that you can make the incision much smaller, less than. This is the 90 proline. Introducing a threading into the needle through eyelid like that. Now this loop has formed. Now this through constriction to give you the nice holding. So and the now snare is proline snare is ready. So by pulling you constrict, by pushing you enlarge. This is a very hypermature cataract, hypermature brunation cataract, Morganian cataract. Sometimes in the learning phase, once you confident, you can do PHACO in these cases, but in the beginning, you can do this technique and make the incision much smaller and can put foldable iron to give some like experience of PHACO. So we are making same like 5 to 5, 6 millimeter axis. The Morgan effect, you can see the also the anterior capsule is much fibrosed, and this is enlarged. So we just cut the anterior capsule margin, and we are taking out the nucleus. Very small but very hard. And now introducing the fluorine snare, same like, and we are just engaging the nucleus. Fluorine snare, and cutting the nucleus. This filling is different, not like this, but it is fluorine is not that stout.
Yeah. Sort of tilting actually.
Yeah. And also we are trying to make another fragment. This is so sometimes you need not to do this also. Sufficient. So you make it 3. Now you can introduce your PHACO and emulsify those. So that one step you have done with that.
Yeah.
Now, other half we are making 2. And now we can introduce your PHACO. So that gives you good feeling. Thank you.
Yeah. So next topic is trenching and cracking by Dr. Mohan. What is a beautiful videos actually, Manasa. You know, it was really nice. I think that's useful for a lot more other people. We have not actually tried it out in.
So if you want to practice, I can send you some snare. You can practice it.
Yeah,
nice
that'll be great.
That's excellent technique. It's an excellent technique. Please use it. I think I have sent to Venkatesh also.
Okay.
So he has tried. It's an excellent technique. It's an excellent technique.
Okay.
I will show some like converting from PHACO to SICS. We will show some snare cases. We will see how useful it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's coming on. It's just coming on. Yeah.
Good evening. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Jacob and his team for inviting me to this webinar, interesting webinar. And second thing is, and also at the same time, I would like to thank. Can you hear me? At the same time, I would like to thank and remember Arvind this time, because it gave a fantastic platform for us to do the surgery, to learn the surgery, to teach the surgery. So it's wonderful working there and with all of you at the same time. Yes. So today the topic is SICS to PHACO transition. I think both of you have covered very well, and I almost covered the topic and made my life easy also. One thing Dr. Jacob showed very nicely: if you have from a 2-wheeler, you are shifting to 4-wheeler. Very important to be noted. Very important thing to be noted, because next you come to the car. The car, you have to use all the 4 limbs. All the 4 limbs you have to use. And second thing is, one thing also, you know that when you start driving a car, you can you hear me?
Yes, sir. It's very clear.
Yeah. When you start driving a car, you always go to under a trainer. The trainer tells you one thing. Always you can maneuver the things when the car is slow. Go for a speed. Don't go for a speed. When the car is on the slower, you're able to control the vehicle very well. That's a very crucial part. Even in the once you know the technique, once you know understand all the basics of the car driving, you can go for the speed. The basic is you want to stop the car when it really requires stopping, but when you're not able to control. One thing. Second thing, your trainer also will not teach one thing. You'll teach only one thing at the end. What is that? That is half clutch. That's an excellent technique. I think one should know what is called as half clutch. That is holding the nucleus. That means equating to holding the nucleus. That's why you'll be taught divide and conquer first, then only the half clutch, the last to be taught, so that you start doing a direct shot.
Yes.
Yes. Today my topic there are two topics. One is a trenching, and a second one is phaco chop actually. See that the SICS transition. I think Manas has shown an excellent video. What we used to do where we remove the whole nucleus out, but then came something like where you can you reduce this size of the nucleus so that you can break the nucleus into 4 fragments. That's what divide and conquer. But then later we wanted to see whether we can decrease the what we call size of the pieces so that we can reduce the power, and then came the chop technique. So that's how this transition is going on. Only thing to take for the advantages of reduced power and reduced trauma to the endothelium and good outcome for the patient. So the SICS is transited from routine in toto removal of the nucleus, the manual PHACO, then came divide and conquer through escalator, because this is very, very crucial, because we're in a fan phase. Everybody should go through escalator tunnel, learn this escalator tunnel, because technically speaking, it's very difficult to do a PHACO if you look at back actually, if you look back, doing through escalator tunnel is not very easy compared to doing through a clear corneal tunnel, because the more control is required, and also the wound architecture is slightly different. And we are all lucky. All of us were lucky because we had done so good number of SICS and ably guided by our great teachers, so that we could easily transit with knowing all these basics of scleral tunnel. Then came your something called as coaxial 2.8, then 1.10 millimeter coaxial micro PHACO, then something called as bimanual sleeveless PHACO. So let us say what we were doing in early part of our career, when immediately after fellowship or immediately at the end of your fellowship, you are taught to do because we were very good in scleral tunnel. So a good scleral tunnel has to be constructed or shown, same as your SICS. But one thing you should keep a note: when you're doing a trenching, you see that the movement of the nucleus, your nucleus should not move actually. That's the beauty of your trenching, which I will explain later on. So then once you do the trenching to feel for the hang of the, but then you can do either continuing making more fragments, or you can learn something called as a stop chop or something learning. That's what we used to learn immediately after fellowship. I'll go into these slides more detail a little later. So today my topic is on trenching. The word trenching is so obvious. It's something making a hole. When you take a log of wood, you see when you take a log of wood, you have to cut into 2 pieces. That log can be cut into many techniques actually. Either you can cut with a saw with the 2 pieces, but one thing you should really be clear: you cannot break this log of wood until you go to 90% or 95% depth. That's what is divide and conquer. Subsequently later I will tell you how you can divide a log of wood without going fully 90% thickness. So we are in the basic stage. As Dr. Manas told that everybody should know something called as the trenching. Trenching is a crucial part. Let's go little details of this trenching. But it's very clear that both 3 things are very important. Before starting a PHACO, as Dr. said, this chamber should be stable. The next most important is your capsular access. So all this you would have well mastered with doing a regular SICS. But okay, my senior Arvind used to say that if you know a scleral tunnel, and you're almost through to the PHACO, because machine does everything for you. And next is the height procedure. As far as my understanding is, the hydro procedure. Because once if you don't have a mobile nucleus before doing a phaco, then you will be in more serious problem later on actually. All this we learn because we go to prospective search at most of the time. If you're not at a good hydro dissection, I think you end up in more problems actually. So make sure that that nucleus freely rotates before you starting phaco. These are the three things. The second more thing is, as Dr. Jacob told, you should never make. See, what a biggest problem for the beginners is when they're making a side port. When they make the side port, they'll make as if the same way as the first side port. That is the way the wood start leaking. So, a full cone, make it over 0.5 millimeter itself because you require only a 0.5 millimeter side port to introduce your SICS hook. Most of the beginners, what they have, a bigger opening without realizing that, because that is the cause a little shallower. The shallow when you're doing a phaco. Something already again described by two speakers. The most important is one everybody should realize the nucleus, the architecture of the nucleus. We know that it's more thick at the center than at the periphery. So your direction of the phaco needle should be almost according to the like a boat shape, what Dr. Jacob said. And one more important thing is make sure that you don't push the nucleus. That's most selected because one thing you realize you are breaking the nucleus or cracking the nucleus inside the blank because what are the forces directly brought on by the zonules. So that you have to be very careful. More of a figure and less of vacuum because you want the cutting more of a cutting. So according to the cutting, you can depending upon the size grading of the nucleus, either 45, 30, or the hardness of the nucleus, you can change the date. So groove width. The groove width also depends upon the type of the hardness of the nucleus. If you look at softer nucleus, you just make a narrower groove or a minimum width. And if you have a harder nucleus, you may have to go for a wider and a little broader and a little longer groove as well. Then to the groove width. When I say groove width, again, this also is dependent upon the hardness of the nucleus. The softer the cataracts, you go for a narrower, and the harder the cataract, you go for a little wider. Normally, one should realize that the diameter is around 1 millimeter, but with the sleeve, it should be slightly more than 1.2 to 1. Sometimes 1.8. So ideally speaking, at least two phaco tip width actually it will be better. Then it is groove depth because this is a crucial move. Because as I told, cutting a log of wood with a saw is different. The log of wood with a chisel is different. In this case, you have to go up to the 90% of depth. Crucial for a divide and conquer to breaking the nucleus. So what are the indicators which tell you that you have gone quite deep? You should see a uniform bright red reflex. That's most important. If you don't see this go fully depth, you try to crack, you end up messing either cheese wearing and you get frustrated actually. So the most important is going adequate trenching is extremely important. Then of course, as I said that the rotation of the nucleus either can be done single-handedly as Dr. Manas told, and also it can be done bimanually. See, both the techniques has to be done clearly and make sure where you put the needle actually, because if you shoot to the periphery of the nucleus, then only you can rotate. Never try to rotate a nucleus putting at the center. So this putting a phaco tip at the center and the other tip at the periphery can help you in a bimanual rotation, but this is also very important. When the nucleus doesn't rotate, that means to say there is some problem there actually. So make sure that you repeat your hydro dissection once again, then see what exactly is happening. The nucleus has to rotate freely for your successful phacoemulsification. As Jacob told that, see, the main thing is instruments has to be placed at the base of the groove. That's crucial actually. Many of the beginners, what happen, they try to do at the superficial, they end up in cheese wiring. So let us go some trenching. Nowadays we are left slowly because it's more of obsolescing for us, for most of the modern surgeons. But you make sure, but you see that depending upon the hardness of the nucleus, you trench it. Keep on trenching, but most important, you trench more in the center. That's crucial. And you see that we can place the second instrument right in the periphery and rotate. Second thing is more at the center. more center. See the glow. See, this is the time. This will tell you that you've gone on 90% depth of the thickness. See, then let's see another video where one of our trainers has done is they are trenching, but they are not able to crack it. You can see that if you're not able to crack, means there is something problem. That means you're not quite deep enough. You're not gone. You have to trench it, and sometimes you miss at the periphery. That's also very important. And make sure that you don't go too much close to the capture axis initially. Now, if you try to rotate, it's not possible. So you might have to trench a little more till you see the red glow. And putting the instrument right at the base of the groove is very crucial, and then it cracks. The division of the nucleus either be done with a phaco needle, or you can use a cytode or a spatula or a SICS tube together. You can. So what this is the one half. This is the you are making a 4-quadrant. I think that Dr. Manas will deal in more detail. So let us see a few more cases of trenching and cracking. See what is more important as a beginners. Please start your when you are transition phase, you do in a clear tunnel. Good clear tunnel is very important because there is any problem, you can always convert to a manual exercise, which gives excellent result. Now you see the most important things. You see my nucleus. The nucleus will never move. This is the most crucial thing actually, because the lesser the movement of the lens, when you're phacoing it, that means you are putting less stress on the zonules. If the lens start moving, that means you are pushing the nucleus. You should never push the phaco probe. When you push the probe, that means the power is less. So depending upon the hardness of the nucleus, you make sure that you adjust the power adequately. So then rotate, repeat the same. In this type of cataracts, the cataract is very, very soft. You can make a almost 80% trench cell sometimes to crack. The most difficult for the beginners is soft cataract. Soft cataract try to trench, which is difficult to crack cheese wiring. That's the crucial thing. I think we'll discuss the discussion part how to go about it. This is a relatively softer cataract. So actually, that what about 80% trench was sufficient. This almost splits into four pieces. And make sure, see, one thing is very important. Unless the pieces is divided into fully, the pieces will not come to the probe. If the pieces are not coming to the probe, that means your division is not accurate. So this is one thing we should always keep in the mind for the beginners actually. Now let us say a little harder cataract. You see harder cataract, you have to go more deep. That means and wider trench, a deeper trench, and you might a little more power. This is a case of full. You should be extra careful because you should not forcibly move the lens. Because if you forcibly move the lens, then there is always a possibility you can damage the zonules. Then we'll see whether we can be applied, because in initial stage we do the same technique. You see, this is a case of flexor lens. Still we are attempting try to do this patient, but you should be extra careful. As I told you, not by pushing that we are damaging, but anyhow we have put a CTR before the phaco. That means immediately after Rexis we have to put a CTR. So this is also the same technique, but make sure that you put less stress on the zonules. Okay, that ends my topic on trenching. I think Dr. Manas will further go on the next topic of divide and conquer. If there is a questions, I think we will take it at the end actually.
Yeah.
I think you can take over, Dr. Manas. Dr. Manas,
Well, anybody who wants to ask questions can be even putting in your questions in the chat corner. You can put your questions there. We can discuss at the end, or you can even speak out at the end of the the session.
Good evening. Actually, after the Mohan stop of the trenching and cracking, I think that half job is done. So now we have to emulsify the fragments, and also how systematically we can do the fragments. So let us see one full case of 4-quadrant. So now we are making a corneal tunnel, as already Dr. Mohan told that we take up the clear corneal is much easier than going to the scleral tunnel, whatever we used to do in our early part of life. Because that time foldable IOL was not available, so we used to put rigid IOL. Now almost we have switched to 100% foldable IOL, so definitely clear corneal tunnel gets to do. So now making two side ports is a capsulorhexis. So we are doing little bit 5 to 5.5, unlike SICS, so that it overlaps 360 So this is a nice 5.5 to 5.5 millimeter capsulorhexis centric. Once that, gentle hydrodissection. One thing, first remove your viscoelastic before hydrodissection. This is a very important stage. Otherwise, there is chance of blowout, especially if you use a higher viscosity viscoelastic. This is a one trick I am telling you. Then once that, then bimanual rotation, the same principle what Mohan has already elaborated. We are making one half of the trench. Then we are rotating it 180 degree opposite and start from where you first started, from the center to the periphery. Initially, you limit your sculpting within the capsulorhexis. Then once you go deeper, you can below the capsulorhexis and go to more periphery. But initially, you limit your trenching within the capsulorhexis so that you don't damage the anterocapsular margin. Once the one half of the trench is completed, we are making another half, and so at the end it will like a cross sign. Once you go to adequate, we are tracking it first one half, then rotating bimanually and go to the opposite side and crack it the two fragments completely. Still, I can hear during my learning here, Mohan used to say that not a single fiber should not be attached between two fragments before you go to the fragment removal. That still rings in my ear also. And whenever I teach PHACO to the trainees, I used to say the same thing. So while tracking, you must ensure that not a single fiber should not be attached between two fragments. Otherwise, you can damage the capsule. So once you do the nice 4 free fragments, you go for fragment removal. You can do little bit sub chop to reduce the size of the nucleus. And we are doing little bit sub chop so that the fragment can be better managed in the iris plane, because it harder nucleus, so fragment size is a little bit bigger. So that you can practice it, and then you don't gently go for fragment removal. And always use your left hand to fit the fragments. So now that we are using the very higher generation PHACO machines, so actually now the function of the left hand becomes less because much more followability is there. But when you started our PHACO training, that time machines were older generation and not much followability was there. We used to chlorate like 15, 20. Now we can chlorate up to 35. Even we can go to 40, 42, no problem. So that more flow rate and more vacuum gives more followability. So your left hand need not to move that much fast. So because greater followability, one by one fragment comes to your PHACO tip. So you have to just place your PHACO foot paddle and keep the fragment at the center and go on emulsifying. So at the end, you must be careful. You support your PC with the second hand instrument so that you should not suck your PC. This is the last fragment. You reduce your vacuum and the flow rate and protect your PC by the second hand instrument, what either since tube or spatula, whatever chopper you're using, and that's crucial. and see how controlled I am removing the nucleus, and almost all fragments are removed, and now the epinucleus part is there, and we can easily remove that epinucleus part, and that epinucleus part has come. And we are using the Simcoe cannula. You can use Simcoe or you can use bimanual, coaxial, whatever is required. Because as it is SICS to PHACO, so I showed the Simcoe cannula, how you can use the Simcoe cannula in your PHACO cases also. Actually, Simcoe is a very nice technique, and you can use it. And as we are planning for multipiece lens, we are enlarging the incision using the axis of multipiece lens. So we are enlarging incision little bit, like 3.23 millimeter, and the whole lens is gone inside, and positioning the lens and removing the viscoelastic. Thank you.
Okay, sir. So next is stop and chop. So
By you.
Next is stop and chop. I hope you can see my slides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you have done a few hundred of the divide and conquer, or at least 50 or 100 of the divide and conquer, you learn how to, handle the nucleus in the best way possible. Like Dr. Mohan had mentioned, that part is very important, where you should know what is the width of the size of your tip. A 0.9 or 1 millimeter tip means, as you do your trench, it should be about 2 tip width, especially in a harder nucleus, but in a softer nucleus, probably you can afford to make it a little more narrower. And often I have found that, that first step where you find difficulties while you're doing the trench, because that is the time when you handle the handpiece the first time. You have to use your foot pedal, you have to use your hand, you're hearing some odd sounds, and you're really taken aback, and you're surprised actually. So getting over that initial fear and difficulty, always as you do your trench and divide and conquer, you get over all that, and once you see that the nucleus is divided into a few fragments, and then you start removing it, then you gain confidence. You know how the vacuum at the hold works, how the power has to be changed. When you're doing your trench, you have to have a higher power with less vacuum and flow rate. But when you're doing the fragment removal, you have to increase your vacuum setting as well as the flow rate, and the hold should be very good. So the fragments should come to the tip, as well as the power should be adequate to remove the kind of hardness that the nucleus is having. So all these things one learns, and then one feels that the surgery can be done a little more faster probably, and that is the stage when you look forward to the technique called stop and chop. So what is stop and chop? Actually you initially make a central trench, as already mentioned, 90% of the depth. Even the hardest of nucleus can be managed this way. So you make a trench right through the center, divide the nucleus into 2 halves, and then each half you learn how to chop. So this is a learning ground for chopping as well. So you know how to go to a higher level of vacuum. You learn more about the hold of the nucleus, and then a better way to manipulate your instrument inside the capsule or inside the anterior chamber. That is when you're prepared to do your stop and chop. So divide the nucleus into 2 halves, and then each half is probably, if you're scared to use a chopper, I would advise that you go for even a Sinsky or a small tip chopper, which comes at around 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter tip is there. And later on, when you're more confident, you can, graduate onto a 2 millimeter or longer chopper. And then the blunt tip chopper is also there, which is, you might feel, it's much more safer to go right up to the equator and do a direct chop and things like that. So as mentioned, cutting a log, dividing it, means that you have to go deep, divide it into two halves, and then that diagram on the right side shows how the stop and chop is done after dividing the nucleus into two halves. So when you're going into the chop mode, you have to increase your vacuum to something like 300 plus millimeters of mercury, and the flow rate also has to be something like 35 plus, and you can even increase your bottle height so the anterior chamber becomes a little more stable, and that's how you start doing your chop. You need a better hold to do your chop, and then you advance the tip of the chopper right up towards the equator. Initially, select a cataract that is about grade 2 or 3. It should be hard enough. It should not be very soft, because you will sort of cut through. So, initially choose grade 2 or 3 hardness, not a very hard cataract. And then, you are able to go towards the equator of the nucleus, which may not be right up to the, the extent of the capsule equator. So it's safe that way, and go right to the equator, and then bring the tip of the chopper towards the phaco tip as you're holding the nucleus at that part of the center of the nucleus. And when you're holding the nucleus, as you can see, the tip of the probe should be bevel towards the flat part of the nucleus. So you have to point the bevel towards the harder part of the nucleus so that you get a better occlusion. And as mentioned earlier, in peristaltic pump, unless you occlude the tip, you won't get a proper hold of the nucleus. So by the time you have gone through a few 50 or 100 numbers of your divide and conquer, you realize how the fragments can be handled with the help of increased vacuum and a better hold. So here I am showing how the tip is introduced with the bevel down, and once you're into the anterior chamber, you're pointing your tip down with the bevel up, and that's the attacking of the nucleus at the center. You can see the trench is being made a little wide than just the tip width, so it's more than 1 millimeter in width. As you go deeper, the sleeve also has to be accommodated there, so that the nucleus doesn't get pushed. Here also you can see actually the nucleus is getting pushed a little bit, but then meanwhile the surgeon is trying to make it wider. And at the center you can see it's harder, and as you go deeper and deeper, the tip is being pointed more towards the center, and the trench is only limited to that part of the nucleus which is hard and where the red reflex is not seen. And then the nucleus is rotated around, and the other hard the part is being trenched, so that the trench is all through. And then this is a blunt tip chopper that is being used, and quite a long tip chopper, so it must be around 2 millimeters in length. And again, before doing the dividing the nucleus, he's preferring to make the trench deeper, and then the two instruments, one hand the phaco probe and the other one the chopper, is being used to divide the nucleus into two halves. And then each half, now you can see the bevel is going down, and that is how it can be occluded better. And the occlusion is, you can see how much the vacuum is. Earlier these were in the early 2000 that these settings were used. We used to use much lesser settings at that time, but then with the change of machine, lot more higher settings can be, phaco parameters can be used now, because it's a lot more safer. It's much more safer for the wound, less of wound burn is there, and more efficient phaco delivery is possible. So that's how each half is being divided into 2 or 3 fragments, unlike the divide and conquer where you have only 4 quadrants. Here each half is being divided into at least 3 separate pieces before each cases being removed safely. So harder cataracts can be always dealt with by using the divide and the stop and chop technique. You can see how the tip of the probe goes right up to the equator. It's not a very hard cataract. It's somewhat like a grade 3. So it should be a grade 3 for you to chop. A softer cataract might be difficult. It will cease fire and you won't get the real feel of a chop. And this coordination has to come between the two hands. And when you do a divide and conquer, you learn how to use your left hand, as Dr. Manas was mentioning. It's a bimanual technique. Whereas in SICs, you use more of the right hand. Here, you use both the hands. In fact, ambidextrity, using both the hands. If few people are capable of doing that, if that is also possible, it's a lot more better. So you need to use your left hand. The left hand works as well as the right hand in this procedure. There's yet another video showing a divide and conquer. You can see the initial energy is at a little high. And if you're doing a fast trenching, you can afford to keep your vacuum also a little high. And the flow rate also should be kept a little high. If you're pushing the nucleus, that means your vacuum is too less. You can go up on your vacuum. You can widen the trench. Your trench may not be wide enough. That could be another reason why you're pushing it. And now you're into phaco 2 mode where the power can be reduced a little bit, and then you're depending more on the fluidics and the vacuum, the hold. So that's how the each half is being divided and being removed. You can see both the hands working in coordination. The left hand is almost like feeding the fragments in. The followability in the present generation machines are very good. You don't have to actually feed it. All the fragments almost come directly to the tip of the probe, and it happens much more faster with the better phaco settings modulation. You can see the epinucleus also getting removed because of a very good hydro dissection. And your work is done much more faster this way. So that is the end of the stop and chop technique. I think now the next speaker will take over.
I will
Dr. Manas,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So now I will show two cases where we converted from phaco to SICS. So as we were discussing, learning SICs is so important because not only that it gives you the transition to phaco, but also whenever we land up in problem in phaco, the learning SICs gives much easier to convert. So I want to share two of my cases where the precedent occurred in the early stage of phaco, and I converted to SICS, and got a nice outcome. So this is the one case. I think the video has that audio sound.
There's no audio, sir. Do you like to explain? There's no audio coming.
No audio?
No,
okay. 1 minute. No audio? No. But I can, audio is visible, audible?
No,
The
the
audio?
video is coming clearly, but then there's no sound.
No
So
sound?
probably you need to explain, yeah.
You can speak actually, yeah.
Yeah, you can speak.
Oh, okay. So then I can go from the beginning, eh?
Yeah, I think so. At least halfway through, because
Okay, okay.
we didn't actually, probably you have already had the rent and you have decided to convert. We didn't see that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'll go from the beginning. But I can hear the sound. I don't know.
That's because you are having the earphone on.
Okay. So this is a 72-year-old gentleman with hypermature cataract. So I attempted for phacoemulsification, and after staining the capsule with trypan blue, I am doing a capsulorhexis. So we say about 5 to 5 millimeter capsulorhexis. So after initial trenching, then I started do chopping, and first chop was successful. Then second chop was successful. Everything was going smooth. Then third chop. While attempting the fourth chop, suddenly the antechamber deepened, and I saw the large PC rand and vitreous came into the antechamber. So it's a large PC rand and vitreous came into the antechamber. So I thought I should not go for phaco because the whole nucleus is in the capsular bag. So I decided I should convert. So as I was doing temporal, so I shifted my position to the superior side, and I'm making a scleral tunnel. So here is the importance of learning SICS. Until unless you know the SICS, like what the Western surgeons they do a ECC IOL. So we make it large incision, make sutures, and that gives you a bad outcome, visual outcome. So as the rexis was small, so I tried to do the double capsule rexis because I have to collapse the nucleus in the antechamber. So I need a little larger rexis. So I was successful. So then I did a sclerotomy at 3 point with MBR needle, and I inject viscoelastic behind, so that gives me support to this single nucleus. Then once that, I am taking out one by one fragment, and at the same time I am injecting viscoelastic behind the fragment so that the nucleus does not sink. Then I am introducing the cycloadhesive spatula through the sclerotomy, and with bimanually I am extracting the rest of the fragments. This is a little bit heroic maneuver, but I was successful. Then introducing the vectis, then one fragment is taking out, and I am not using the irrigation. I am just using the vectis only. Then all fragments is taken out. I was lucky that no fragment gone inside. Then using the dry aspiration, and lot of cortex was there. So I am making anterior vitrectomy, bimanual anterior vitrectomy, because with lot of vitreous in there, you will not be able to aspirate the cortex. You can use the cart, IA cart also. You can use cart at the same time vitrectomy also. That option is available. So you can at the same time cart the vitreous and aspirate with phaco probe only. I am using all sorts of maneuvers, Simcoe through the phaco vitrectomy. Once the all, then I plan to put acrisum multivis in the sulcus over the capsulorhexis. I was successful. Then I captured the lens. Then I put one suture in this canal tunnel. So here is the importance of knowing SICS. So I came out with so difficult situations so slightly, and patient got postoperative uncorrected 6/9 vision.
Beautiful, sir. Nice video.
Actually, this case I presented the ASCRS. This is a series of, see, this is the
2 weeks post-op.
no.
Would you advise to the viewers to do that for this posterior levitation?
Levitation, yeah. Actually, this is a risky procedure.
Yeah.
I should not advise it should use logistically.
Yeah, true.
Because it's a risky technique.
For an experienced hand, you can do that safely.
Yeah,
Then,
definitely.
probably not for everyone. It should be used judiciously. Yeah.
Manas, surprisingly, you could have done a Parthana vitrectomy, rather than going to the anti-vitrectomy.
You could have done it.
You have put a cyclospatula.
Yeah.
Parthana, you could have as well put your probe there.
I have put a spatula in the side port, and supported the nucleus.
Correct.
The same port could have been used for the vitrectomy.
Yeah. So this is another case. This is a hard posterior polar cataract. So see, you can see the I think see this is the posterior polar. So I saw it was a dense cataract,
You can see it.
but preoperatively it was like a posterior polar. So I proceeded accordingly. So patient put under topical anesthesia. This is a grade 4 cataract. Put 2 side ports. A trypan is injected. Corneal tunnel 2.8 millimeter, capsulorhexis to the side port 5 to 5.5 millimeter. That's a nice 5 to 5. Then without doing hydrodissection, I didn't do any hydrodissection because I suspected posterior polar. So I am doing little bit central trenching. So once the central trenching, I attempted first chop. Then I was successful. A fast chop. Then rotate a little bit. With the trenching itself, it started rotating. Then second chop. Then second chop, harder cataract, and I was successful. And nucleus was moving smoothly. Everything is going fine. Then third, all fragments are completely separated. Then I thought I must remove one fragment. So once I started removing the fragment, I noticed a big central precedent. So then I took out the phaco probe. The whole nucleus is inside the capsular bag. So in any way I can't proceed with phaco. So I did a scleral tunnel. 6 millimeter scleral tunnel. Here lies the importance, because once you know the scleral tunnel properly, you can come out in any situations. So I was a little softer, so that was scleral tunnel a little bit difficult, and enlarge the in first fragment what was there. I took out the first fragment and I made a nick in the anterior capsule, and I enlarged the capsulorhexis because my capsulorhexis was a little bit smaller, so I cannot take out. So I have to enlarge the capsulorhexis. I enlarge it a little bit. Then bimanually, I prolapse the nucleus from the bag into the anterior chamber. You can see the posterior polar here. You can here. Sorry. Yeah. So I am collapsing the nucleus. The half nucleus has come out. And using the same forceps, what I have shown in the Sneha technique, same forceps I am using it. So without irrigation, but if with irrigation, the fragments can sink into the vitreous. With that same forceps, I am taking fragments and using the bimanual anti-vitrectomy. Because until unless you do the anti-vitrectomy, you will not be able to aspirate the cortex. So thorough anti-vitrectomy. And at the same time, we can use the IA cut mode, so that at the same time you can aspirate the cortex. Now I am using the dry aspiration. This is a very important, nice technique, because I am not using the dry aspiration with viscoelastic. I am removing the residual cortex. This is very difficult once the vitreous is collapsed. But the dry aspiration works very useful. I am injecting visco with right hand, with the left hand, with aspiration, with the phaco aspiration, I am aspirating the residual cortex. So this is a very important step, because otherwise you will end up with the residual cortex. Again, I am doing vitrectomy because the cortical aspiration I have done by the time the vitreous has already come again. So again, I am doing vitrectomy. This you have to repeat it, because this is a complicated case. You have to do three times vitrectomy. Again, I am doing vitrectomy, and little bit subincisional cortex is there. Again, I am putting viscoelastic. You can see the large PC rent is visible. I am putting this same, my good old friend, actis of multipiece into the sulcus. I think in this situation, that is the best lens that we can put, and that gives you longer stability, long-lasting stability. And that leading have to trail into the sulcus over the capsulation margin, and the other half also into the sulcus. And the haptic is dialed into the sulcus. I tap the lens 2-3 times, it was very stable. But हम pyroglyph into the anterior chamber. Then Kenacort. This is a very important thing. Finally, we must use it, Kenacort, to see whether there is a residual vitreous. See, there a lot of vitreous is there. I am using the scissor to cut the vitreous strand in the wound. Then again, I am using the vitrectomy probe. Now, see the round pupil. That means there is no vitreous in the wound and in the vitreous. And that's the final case. And patient got nice visual outcome. Thank you.
Very nice, beautiful videos. One word, Dr. Mohan, would you suggest, some other techniques also when you have a rent? One thing is, detecting the rent early. Like if you have a rent, you try to deny the fact that, you have seen it and you proceed with the phacoemulsification. Often, you end up in a stage where there's no return. The nucleus starts dipping down, and, then going after that is never advisable. So in both these cases, actually, Dr. Manas was, he identified the rent quite early. But would you manage it in a slightly different way?
Yeah, there are two things actually. Excellent video what Dr. Manas. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It was an excellent video what Dr. Manas told. And actually, every beginner's one thing as a surgeon, as Dr. Manas said, that you should know when to stop actually. Identify the problem and when to stop. He is a good surgeon, because getting a 6-6 in all the cases and no complication management, it is not so great actually. Identify the problem early, because even though it's a safe technique, you have a safety margin in phaco. You have to pick up this safety margin. Dr. Manas was very clear. See, there is been some error, because it's simple physics actually in phaco. Unless you literally go, except in posterior polar, it will be some error will be there as a surgeon factor, but you have to pick up that very fast. Second thing is, identification is the earliest sign, as Dr. Manas said. Once you identify, then the technique depends upon what is the extent of rent you had, at what stage you had the rent, then the management changes actually. If you had a rent quite early, I think it's always better to, as I did, enlarge the rhexis and prolapse it, There's one more technique people try to do. What is that? Try to put a foldable lens in the sulcus and try to then take out the do the phaco over the scaffolding of the vitreous. That's one technique. It can be thought of, but I don't recommend for this for beginners actually, because it's not a easy technique. Many times there is a possibility that these people can push the lens into the vitreous cavity. So that's what. So this is most important.
Yeah.
And second thing is, it is unless you know the basic thing what exactly went wrong, and you should always see your instruments moving. Without seeing the instruments, what is happening, just blindly pushing, it's always unsafe. So I strongly support or recommend the technique done by Manas to do it, because that's next step. When you're quite advanced in techniques, then we can think of all those techniques. And one should be perfect in the vitrectomy, because very crucial. Because if you don't know the vitrectomy, you don't know assess the vitreous loss, and every movement of the lens during a phaco you should observe, because that gives a clear clue what is happening. Suddenly chamber deepening, suddenly suddenly you see a clean area in the posterior capsule, and suddenly nucleus got tilting, suddenly AC is shallow. These are all some of the warning signs it gives to a surgeon. So these are the things we have to pick up. How we understand, because all this we understand because basically we are doing quite a number of cases and practically try to analyze retrospectively what went wrong. So that's how the surgeon has to learn. Just number is not very important. The techniques and proper understanding of the fluidics, proper understanding of the phaco, proper picking up these risky signs is very important. Very important actually. So I think we can always do it. But basic one thing Dr. Manas showed is the excellent technique was, earlier people used to just cut the rexis, but now Manas has shown very nicely that you can enlarge rexis and take it out. That's the most crucial part. In a stress, many of them try to push the victis. Finally, they remove the whole bag.
That way the ion also can be placed safely in the sulcus.
Yes.
Three-piece lens is very useful.
In the sulcus, and we can also scaffold it.
And one word about using of OVDs. The higher end OVDs that we have, no business attachments there, but then Viscoat is a very good third instrument, probably, which can always support from below. So you can always plug the rent, prevent the vitreous from prolapsing. Once the vitreous comes out, it's really difficult and it's bad for the eye also. The traction that the vitreous causes on the vitreous base, later on the patient can go in for a retinal detachment and things like that. So always take care of the vitreous. That's very important. And when you have a rent, always plug it with the a higher molecular weight viscoelastic, so that will be a safe for a few seconds. You will be able to sit back and think what you're going to do next. Okay, and next talk is the last one.
First thing is not to be panic actually. All the problems start, you're getting a panic actually. Panic because everybody nobody wants to send this patient to vitreoretinal surgeon. Somehow they want to remove the nucleus out.
Manage it on
so in the process, don't meddle with the vitreous and cause more problems actually. And having a is not a sin actually. Everybody had this problem actually, but only thing is, don't create more problem. Don't create more problem. Actually, you can always take an helping hand from others as well.
Okay. Last topic is on direct chop by Dr. Mohan, and after that we'll be winding up. Before that, meanwhile, you can even use the chat corner to put in your questions. Please do that.
Can you see the slide?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This technique is very popular, especially when we were leaving our time, people shifted slowly. Chop technique. One of the key factors to do a chop is because it is very simple and fast. Then the question comes, but the problem it has got a long learning curve. Unless you understand the physics of a phaco, it is very difficult to do. Many people take a very long time to learn chop, but they learn very quickly divide and conquer, because this is very crucial. That I'll tell you in the subsequent talk. I'll tell you why this happens. And one should see a chop. As I said that when you're cutting a log of wood, the log of wood can be cut in many directions. If you put horizontally with a saw, you have to go nearly 90 to 95% of the time to to reach that depth. It actually, or to make it 2 pieces. Whereas somebody called it where you can put a situation, we can make a log of wood, the simple chisel, and not vertically. If you look at this bark or the cut end of the tree, you can see there are a lot of weak zones. Similarly, you have some, because of the lamella, there will be some area which can be easily separated in phaco as well. You can see you need not go from this here to here. Sorry, you do not go full thickness to cut. If you with an axe cut it into 2 pieces, very same principle holds here also. You don't go deep enough. You hold the nucleus. You have to hold the nucleus, then put it with sharp instruments, either a sharp instrument in a direct chop or in a longer instrument in a horizontal chop. You can cut into pieces. This is the same principle is used here as well. You see here, the initially the phaco probe is with lens is held with a burst mode. Once the head is held in a control, then you can place a second hand instrument with a sharp instruments. Even you can crack with Sinski also, but only thing is Sinski, if you want to crack, you have to go in a deeper bend. You have to subsequently hold nucleus, crack separately. So that I will show you the next slide. So what is a chop? Unlike phaco, divide and conquer, you use manual force. In a routine divide and conquer, you use a phaco power. Most of the lot of phaco power to make into pieces. In here, your manual instrument is force is used, and force is most of the time is directed centripetally. What will the natural fracture or fault planes in the crystals? The advantages in this is less stress on the. In divide and conquer, you are doing a maneuver inside the capsular bag. That means your force of the phaco is cap. That's why the stress on the zonus is more than in the chop technique. In the chop technique, you are holding the nucleus with a phaco power. You are holding the nucleus with a phaco power. The stress is centripetal, not centrifugal, because all the force is either compression or a chop. So the man instrument forces are directed centripetally towards the center against each other, not towards the zonule. That's why it's a very safe technique, even in the challenging cases like small pupils, subluxed lens, and hard nucleus, any other complex situations. Coming to chop, I think horizontal chop from the year of 1993, revolution had occurred because of classical Nagaraj chop actually. Then came stop and chop. All these 2 techniques have been very well showed by Manas as well as Jacob. I'll just stick on to the vertical choppers, which is much easier to learn compared to the horizontal chop. Because keeping in mind the beginners, because we had to go under the capsular axis, then go to the endonucleus to hold for an horizontal chop. That is little difficult for hand. So what is classical horizontal chopper? Classical horizontal chop, you have to hook the endonucleus at the equator, because first you have to place make it flat in the chopper. Then rotate slightly till the chopper, so you engage in the hook at the equator. You have got many designs. Normally it's about 1.2 to 1.5 to 2 millimeter. Elongated tip. It should be blunt because it ought to prevent less stress on the zonule. You should have inner sharpened. I told it's more of a compressive force. You fracture the nucleus. It is always better suited for soft nucleus or a myopic or a post-vitrectomized eyes, and in a mobile hard nucleus and a big zonules. In a mobile hard nucleus, horizontal chop plays a better role than a vertical chop. And always look for zonular dialysis and capsular trace, especially for the beginners, because you are going right under the capsule and then maneuvering your chopper so that you engage the endonucleus. So this is little more for a beginner. So I don't recommend you go initially for a horizontal chop. What is the difference between a horizontal chop and vertical chop is, here something like a shearing force used to split the nucleus into pieces. Here instead of you are having a sharp and short chopper is possible. The surgeon has to clearly understand the basics of your phaco platform, because you have to use all the modalities of the techniques, something like a burst mode. You require a short and high power burst mode to hold the nucleus, and a high vacuum. See, because why it is very important, because the fluidics, understand the fluidics is very important before you enter into the vertical chop. Even though it is a very simple technique, most of us err. Most of the beginners err this only. They don't try to, because as I told you, in learning a car, the last thing is taught is the touch. We are going up, how to hold the car in the up position. The same principle also here also. You should be able to hold the nucleus. Once you are able to hold the nucleus, then you can maneuver things very well. Impaling with a high short burst actually power. Once you hold the nucleus, then you can use any instrument. You can use a Sinskey hook, you can use a sharp chopper, right close to the center, that close to the phaco tip, either right in the front or the side, and chop it vertically and split so that the nucleus cracks easily. It is better suited for hard cataract, down cataract, small pupil, and a small plexus. Any of these cases, which is what we are saying. See, it can be used in a small pupil to show how it can be used even in a small pupil like this also. It is a PXF case with hypermature cataract. But the only issue is whether a shallow antechamber also. So that's why I did put any directing device. So if you are doing a chop right at the center, so it's possible to do. Not that I recommend you to do it, but this is possible because of a direct chop. Beginners, let us understand what is the basic difference between divide and conquer chop technique. See, as I told that, you are doing a phaco inside a capsular bag. That means you are pushing the nucleus or maneuvering the nucleus, either rotating, chop, or breaking the nucleus into 4 pieces inside the capsular bag. But in a chop technique, phaco tip secures. That means you are holding the whole nucleus with a phaco handpiece, because that's why you put a less stress on the zonules. And as I told that, you put a centrifugal force in a divide and conquer, but you use the centripetal. That means you are bringing both the instrument closer. That means more of a centripetal force. And more stress on the zonules, as before told, the divide and conquer. And it is also dependent on the rate reflex, because as I told you that, in divide and conquer, unless you go till 90% thickness, you will not be able to crack. Whatever crack, and finally at the end of the day, in the fallibility of the pieces also, if a single fiber is there, that also will not allow the fragment to come. So it's more dependent on red reflex. But in this case, it's not required on the red reflex to assess the depth of the instruments, because you can go to 1/3 or maybe half also and crack it. So no need to see a red reflex, especially in black and hard cataracts. And needless to say, it's more phaco for divide and conquer, because you're using phaco for a long time. Here you quite reduce power and time. And required deep sculpting, as I already told that. And in this thing, chop is mechanical extension of the initial split, and not safe in a complicated case. Divide and conquer, safe. As I told, long learning curve, because when you start driving a vehicle, see, that's why now if you drive a basic car, you can drive any car. But while driving basic entire mechanism, then you can do anything. That's what I was explaining, that in a divide and conquer, see, you have to literally trench to the base to get a crack. But in chop, it's not necessary, because you are looking at the fault plane. If your crack goes right to the 50%, then you're still able to crack. That's what exactly is the simple analogy in a direct chop. See, normally what happens in a classic horizontal chop, you place the chopper right at the equator. It's not necessary. Either you can place the chopper or a Sinskey hook right in the front of a fake panel, where you have, see, suppose first you hold the nucleus, then insert your secondary instrument either in the front or the side. And once you try to press, this is pushing down and this is pushing up. So, and in the process, you are bringing both instruments together, then laterally separate. That's what is exactly happened in the second picture, and you can initiate a. Sometimes what happens is, most of the time you have a brown or leathery cataract. The big problem is these has got a thick posterior plate where you can have leathery plate, you cannot crack actually. In that case, what you have to do, you should go manner, step by step. Initially, you get a crack at one, then go deeper. That impel the phaco needle down. Then further, they again instead of crack, they extend the crack to the end. So more of a lateral separation, and you should be a little careful also. And in these cases, what happens is zones will be a little weaker. So you should be very careful in maneuvering. Otherwise, then you have a serious problem later on. So let us see how a direct drop works in a simple soft cap. And simultaneously, I've done other video also, so for the shortage of time. It's the same. We just the probe, put the instrument right the mid periphery, separate it, it separates. But the most important thing is the holdability of the nucleus, extremely important. The initial burst mode holdability is extremely important to have a successful cracking. In this direct job, you can nucleus. Next, we show how the challenging cases can be handled with the SICS direct job. Many of us have faced many of us. But cataract, once you remove the capsule, we don't know what type of cataract is white. Is it a white cataract? Cataract. Classically, earlier, we used to do divide and conquer technique. When we were beginners, we used to do a divide and conquer technique. But slowly, because the advantages of this is significant. Next advance, the sound. Now we'll go to the cataract. You can see not necessary to make a trench, just to get a holdability on the nucleus. Thing is, you should make as many packs as possible. The more the pieces, better the power for the power. Let us see one more case. Now, a flower pattern technique. This is a wonderful technique where you make a partial crack. You make a partial cracks, and you don't go deep enough. So you make so that you cleave the endonucleus. So see, I remove the endonucleus out. Then it's something like petal light. So this technique can be adapted to all, even the subsequent harder cataracts. You can see the next clipping will show that same technique. It's almost a grade 4 to 5. Phaco flower, I make a multiple cracks using a burst mode, and I'm chopping with a simple SICS cube because just to show that. But if you have a little sharper chopper, it's much easier. I hardly more than 60%. The maximum power I've used for this is 60 to 70%. Otherwise, and vacuum around maximum 350 to 400. You can see the endonucleus is cleaved now. Once the endonucleus is cleaved, the rest of the flower petal comes easily. I told you that the posterior plate is quite leathery. That's the tricky here because it cannot be possible to crack the through and through in these type of cataracts. That's why I adopted this technique. Leave the endonucleus out. You can see I'm not going full thickness crack, but I just once I get through the endonucleus out, the rest of the thing is much easier. You don't require full crack. Easily. Or sometimes you can flip it out the whole the nucleus plate. How this works, direct shock works is just like this. You have adrenaglaucoma where you cannot do PK in this patient and enlarging the pupil techniques. Here also this technique comes out very handy actually. If you learn this direct shock, and since you are doing maneuvers close by the center of the pupil or close to the hypertrophy, any type of cataract in direct shock. The crucial is because if you see if your nucleus is mobile, then you can straight away go with a direct chop. Only thing is you have to make sure you're seeing this the chopper clearly. Because all the chopping occurs right under your eyes actually. You should not do peripheral chops. All the problem starts when you do the peripheral chops. Let us see. Sometimes what happens, whatever you do, the pupil will not. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see all the maneuvers right in the center, which is possible by the direct shot. And rest of the thing is much easier. Aspiration of the cortex is easier. So then the next other problem happens is many times the pupil become pinpointed on the table. It may not dilate for your adrenaline. It may not dilate with whatever dilating. You don't have a standby dilators. This also comes a great hand. See how even the direct chop at this stage also it can be done. Only the crucial thing in such situation is you should have a mobile nucleus. That means iodization should have happened. The nucleus is moving. Then it's possible. I'm not recommending everybody to do this technique, but only thing I'm try to show how this technique can be used even in a situation like this. Thank you for your patient hearing and questions.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. It was wonderful. Actually, beautiful videos. What all possibilities are there in PHACO we have shown, and the SICS techniques and how to convert was very beautifully presented by Dr. Manas, and even the snare technique was beautifully shown.
Excellent technique.
Yeah, it was very nice. In fact, now if the other participants would like to come out with their questions, it would be good. We can discuss things here. No questions have come up in the chat box. Meanwhile, I would like to thank Mr. Balaji, Joydeep, and Venkat. Three of them really worked hard to make all this possible, and this wonderful platform of WebEx where we could make this presentation. We really hope that a lot of the people who have heard and attended this session would be helped by the advice and techniques that have been suggested here. And we look forward to continue to help any person who would require any help or need in future. So thanking Exceltis and all the managers and people who are behind this. Thank you to my two gurus, Dr. Mohan and Dr. Manas. Yeah.
I think the question is,
Thanks, Jacob.
use a sharp chopper or a blunt chopper. If you're given a chance, you should have a sharp chopper only, because the sharp chopper, it depends upon the type of the nucleus you're handling. If you're handling a harder nucleus, it's better to have a sharp chopper. If you're handling a soft cataract, it's always better to use the routine SINS cube. The most important thing is, the biggest problem with the soft nucleus is, the moment you try to empal it, you try to lose your thing, you would have gone through and through. So you would have lose the grip actually. That's why it's not, sometimes what happens is, it's so soft, you may not be able to hold the nucleus. At that time, what you can do is, you can go in epinucleus mode. Epinucleus mode and try to empanel the soft nucleus. And also hydrodelination will also help actually. Hydrodelination and holding the endonucleus also will help actually. So a blunt chopper for softer nucleus, sharp chopper for a harder nucleus.
Yeah. What chopper do you use, sir? Mohan, sir?
Yeah, I use actually all I showed here was routine SINS cube.
Okay.
I definitely prefer a sharper chopper, but all the videos I showed here just for the beginners.
Yeah, for the beginners, it's safer to use the SINS cube.
Okay. Yeah. Because you don't know, because see, after all, the beginners, what they should do is, there is a question there, which mode to be used? The people has to impale the nucleus. The first thing is, holdability is very important actually of the nucleus, or holding a grip on the nucleus.
Yes.
Again, it depends upon the type of the cataract. If it's a brown or a hard cataract, you have to go for a burst mode.
Yes.
If you go to a softer cataract, you can go for even a routine phaco chop mode. Mode. If it is a too soft, you can go in a epinucleus mode also. You could empanel it actually. The most important is the success of a phaco chop is to understand the dynamics and holdability of the nucleus. If you're able to hold the nucleus, then chopping is very. As I told you, if you're able to control the car in up or off clutch, then you can play around actually in driving actually.
Jacob, I think we should wind up. Participants are leaving. So I think we should wind up. Hello, Jacob.
Hello.
I think we should wind up. Participants are leaving, so we should wind up.
Okay, Manas. Okay, Manas, nice to see you and hear you actually. Excellent.
No. Nice. Your quarrels, no. So I can still that ring my ears. Whatever you said today.
You brought me the memories of our wonderful association and wonderful. I cannot still forget. We have learned together. We have analyzed every case, and it's wonderful to be.
Every case is a teaching for us. Yes, definitely.
Correct.
What you told, we can correct ourselves from our mistake only, so that we can go forward. So every complications, we must take a lesson and go forward.
Yeah. There's a golden era actually where we learned. I think I always thank Arvind for giving us nice platform, and where we had a chance to work with the patient, talk with the surgeons, and all this. We should thank the patient as well. Who have taught us so many things during our stay at Arvind. It has taken us a long way from there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mohan. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Manas.
Thank you.
Sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Dr. Jacob, that was a wonderful, wonderfully constructed instruction course on how to
Thank you, Sony.
go ahead.
Thank you so much.
And I've heard about Dr. Mohan and Dr. Manus from Jacob, and it was wonderful. All three of you did a fantastic job, and I think this is how we should guide our juniors to, come up and do good PHACOs. And the dexterity at which you people do everything is wonderful, and the main thing that you have to keep your cool and not lose your cool once you have a complication.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's been very clearly the way you converted from the temporal clear corneal to the superior scleral tunnel. Shows us very clearly nothing to panic. Go stabilize the nucleus. Go ahead and continue with the procedure. I think all the juniors who are coming up will have a wonderful experience with your talks. And thank you all for such a wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Jacob, great job by coordinating such a good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, Exceltis, also for bringing in these experts to us.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Balaji. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Very nice of you.
Thank you.
You made our evening. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Bye, bye, bye.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
And thanks for all doctors for attending.
Thank you. Yeah.
Have a good day, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.